Well, we're at yet another marina. The places we bring you all to. Anyway, where are we today?
We are at Cobb's Quay in Dorset, and we've come down to see one of our very loyal subscribers, John Penson, because he has his boat here. He has a Merry Fisher 895, and we're very excited to go and have a look round it and see what extras he's got on it.
Yes, he's got absolutely stacks. He's down here somewhere in the marina, so we're going to take you down, show you around the 895 Offshore and see some of the amazing extras that he's added to it. And there we are, look at that, Cobb's Quay Marina. Absolutely lovely. Overcast today, but still mid-20s. Very nice indeed. Right, let's go and find this lovely little 895 Offshore. And here we are. Look at this, fabulous Merry Fisher 895 Offshore. And I'll take you through some of the changes that John has made to this boat, or things that he ordered with it when he bought it new very recently. Waited, seems like an eternity, over a year, because of the dreaded COVID break. We're now August 22, so waited over 12 months for this to finally arrive. But boy, was it worth the wait. And of course, during that time, John had the chance to work out what specification he wanted, a lot of which you'll see shortly. But to create this really lovely version of the 895 Offshore. If we just work along the back here. Incidentally, if we'll have a look around John's boat today, but if you wanted perhaps a lot of the detail in terms of the sizes of lockers and or perhaps the lazarette and things like that, then watch this one as well in conjunction with the other one on our channel, which was the walkthrough of our own Merry Fisher Offshore. I think it was entitled "On a Picnic with the Seals," which we took in our home area in the Pembrokeshire coastline, but I included in that quite a few measurements and extra bits and bobs. So, but this just gives you an idea of what you can do in terms of different specification for the 895 Offshore, and the bits you can add and take away. And just if some of you are out there, which John was at one point, out there working out what he'd like to buy and what he'd like to fit and specify in the 895, then this might just give you a few ideas and a few pointers as to what you could include in these amazing Merry Fishers. So without further ado, you'll remember of course they've got this lovely side access gate here, which of course you can see is probably a good spot because it's a little bit, because the boat is a good old 9 meters or so long. You can see that you could come in the rear here, but this is the perfect opportunity to be using that side access gate there on the starboard side of the boat. And you can also see as well that John has added onto the back gate here that lifts up and opens, which is another way into the boat there. John has put this man overboard rescue sling. We used to, if you remember that film, we used to keep ours under the seat there, but this actually, that's a really good stow point as well though, to keep it fitted there. Looks like it's got Velcro connections there, so I really like that as well. Of course the swim ladder was the same, with that lift up and over ladder that then drops down into the water, which you'll remember well. John's boat as well has the twin Yamaha 200s, and you'll see the shore power connection there as well, but a lovely addition there. And do like that, John, very nice indeed. And of course, as we're looking at the cockpit set out here, you'll see that compared with ours, John added more flexi-teak, and we'll see that as we work around the boat, but added more flexi-teak, which I think is a really nice touch. And I particularly like the table here, which is really nice as well. Our table there, which we often use this area as a full sun pad, and you'll remember from our other film that just around the base of the seat there you can see those little indents where that framework sat, then the cushion on top, which gave you that lovely big sun pad area. but of course those 2 points there allow you to use it for a table as well, and then that finish on the table, because it's often a white nylon type finish on the table, but that addition of the teak on there, that's a really nice touch, and I like that a lot. And then here, of course, you'll remember, there's your gas locker there for the 895. You've got your starboard fuel tank just there, and then the ones further up, that midpoint there, that's your black water pump out, if you were going to pump out your black water, and then of course the one up at the front there with the blue rim round it, that's your freshwater inlet. And then over this side you can see here you've got your starboard filler there, sorry, your port filler there for fuel. 2 300 litre tanks on the 895 Offshore, you'll remember if you've watched those other films, and you can see straight away as well that John has added the flexi teak to the little step there, and then to this area up on the port side there, which is a lovely finish that is, and certainly a very nice addition to the to some of the specification that we went for when we bought ours. You can see as well that John has also got the canopy fitted on the rear here of the 895. You remember ours was a slightly darker colour, but that's also a very nice option, that slightly lighter colour. It fits around here, and you can see that obviously there are zips all the way around, so it allows you to have, of course, the sides, port and starboard sides, and the rear there, so you can fully enclose this area. Makes it a really nice space for dining in the evening, or for if it just cools off a little bit, gives you that bit of extra shelter. And of course, if you've got the sun pad out, it does actually give you a space where somebody could also sleep as well, because the width of the sun pad obviously is the full width of these seats, and therefore gives it almost a sort of berth and a half size for some outdoor camping, which is very nice indeed. So under the seating, this U-shaped seating that you've got here, which incidentally this piece here, and indeed those pieces at the side, but this piece here is optional as well, so you could leave that out completely and have a larger sort of area here. But with the table in that position and with the seating there, it does provide a really nice sort of all-round U-shaped seat if you're sat out here having a meal out in the evening or at lunchtime, whenever, and a very nice social space that is, with that extra seat there. Under the seats, of course, you've got plenty of storage, so under each one they've got a little lift up lid locker. I'll look over this side here. There we go, some good storage spaces. And then under this bench seat at the back here, again that's a good storage space under there, with sort of 3 separate areas, although albeit all joined. You'll remember as well that that to enable the engines to tilt up, then this whole bench seat here moves forward. It moves forward by way of the runners there. And as I say, on our other film there on the Offshore, you'll see details of how all that works and how the seats are pulled forward, so check that film out for a bit more detail in and around lifting and lowering the engines. And another interesting addition that John has made is that when you're in the helm position of the 895, if we look back from here, you can see there you've got no vision of the top of the engines. So which was always a slight frustration, in that particularly if you're coming in on the dual throttle controls only and not using the steering, you wanted to obviously make sure that your steering was dead center before you resorted to just throttle control steering. So it was often a case that Nicky, when we were out on the water, or I, if Nicky was at the helm, used to pop back to check whether things were dead straight at the back here. But John has found a way around that, because fitted up there is a little camera, and if we head up the helm there, you can see, look at that, fantastic, there's your view, so you can see your engines are there, and a really nice view out the back there. What a great little addition that is, really like that. Incidentally, if you check our channel out as well, there is a film of a 795 Sport which we did at BHG Marine down in Lymington, just not far from where I am now, at Cobb's Quay, and the new electronic steering. So this has obviously got the more manual steering with the steering rams at the back here. Yeah, you can see the steering rams going between the engines there. Well, on the latest version, the sort of in effect the 2023 boats, those rams are obviously gone, because the whole steering process is now done electronically. So a bit like the throttles are fly-by-wire, no cables, then so the steering now on the next generation has gone full electric. And what that actually means is when you're moving the wheel, and you'll see it on that film of the Series 2 795 Sport, is you get an indicator on screen which shows you any slight movement to port or starboard with the wheel, registers on an indicator, and as you move the wheel back to the centre, towards the centre, so the needle moves and goes from red to green when your engines are dead centre. So in other words, you don't need to keep looking out the back, and you've got a perfect way of working out that your engines are completely in the straight ahead position. So that's the next generation electric steering. Useful option if you've got the option to spec it, which you now do have with your dealer, then definitely consider that electric steering as well as the fly-by-wire throttles now, which are standard. So let's just work our way up as we do the outside. You'll see that flexi teak there now extends up those steps, and then John has continued the flexi teak. We had this as white GRP. John has carried on though with that flexi teak all the way around, and again I think you'll agree it's a really nice finish that it's created. And I guess now that I've seen it, if we ever, never say never, if we ever ended up getting an 895 again, I think I would do exactly the same, because that is a really nice finish, that. And of course up the front here as well, John has got this little pennant there as well. That's a lovely addition. And in the, you remember the locker of the 895s is a good size as well, and you can see that John is carrying an anchor buoy in there, as well as rope, chain, anchor buoy marker. Here's your remote control as well, so that you can operate the anchor from the front of the boat here, with that really good vision then as to where it's going down, and going down, coming back up, whether it's snagged on anything. Really good position when you're up here to be able to see what your anchor's doing and whether it's gripping. And obviously you've got your standard Lumar electric windlass there, and just see down in there you can see the size of the locker there. A really good space there for storage, and you might even get a fender or two in there as well. And now John was a seafarer for many a year, working as a senior crew on some pretty big ships, cross-channel ferries, some deep sea stuff, and therefore as we work from even here, but certainly within the boat as well, you'll see some evidence of that, and some really great organisation, because not only John uses the boat, but some of his family and relatives use it as well. So he's left some really good clear pointers for those that use it when he's not here, of the things and things to look out for, and sort of handy hints everywhere. This is obviously one of them. He's got his anchor chain colour coded down there, and for anybody or himself, just as a reminder there, which is a really good place to put it. Been laminated, waterproof, underside of the anchor locker, and it's just a reminder then of how much chain and rope you might have down in the water. Nice little touch, that. And you can see there as well that lovely flexi teak decking going down the side there as well. Obviously slightly narrower that side, as you can see, and obviously the walkway this side is recessed lower, so therefore, and you've got more width there, so that's obviously used to be our preferred way to come up onto the front, onto these lovely sun deck areas of the 895. Slightly wider than this side, still accessible to go down there, but obviously, and with grab handles and the in fact the supboard rails there as well, you've got plenty to grab onto as you work your way along, but just a slightly easier passage up this starboard side. You'll remember as well I'm sure, from that other film that we did on the 895. These obviously, these pieces lift up, that lifts up at the back there, and so this becomes like a little bench seat at the front here, and we used to absolutely love that as a vantage point. Sat out the front there, seats 2 easily, you could probably get 3 as well across that bench seat, and a really lovely place to sit while you're pottering along at slow speed, where we used to have ours moored at the Cleddau Estuary. Lovely little spot. Of course, you've also got these poppers here as well, you remember, there, which, so they take the sun pad that fits over that, it goes over the top of the window there. That's obviously the opening vent down into the master cabin. It fits over the top of that. That runner there as well is where the cushion slides and then pops into these. You can still, obviously it's got a hatch in it in effect that you can open, which allows you to still use the window, but if you wanted it in full sun deck mode, you can keep the seat or keep this bench seat down. The pads go all the way across, and it's a really nice sun deck as well. There's also a little piece here as well which you add, which just comes up the windscreen a little bit for a sort of headrest almost, a little additional piece of cushion which makes the sort of whole sun pad effect. Got some more info on that on the other film, so if you wanted to see that laid out, then by all means check out that other film on our channel. Nice little addition there, very nice too. And of course you can see as well up here those twin sunroofs that are absolutely lovely. You can see the light and the space and the air that it allows into the saloon area of the 895. Really nice that, particularly on a day like today, which has turned out, after being cloudy this morning, it's turned out absolutely lovely and really warm. But while we're still up here, Garmin, so you can see the spotlight just above your Garmin radar there. The spotlight on ours used to be mounted at the front here, but John has obviously taken the opportunity to use the Garmin setup there, and so apart from the radar, has now moved also his navigation light to the top there, so you've got a 360 white light. But you've also got your Garmin radar fitted as well, so that was something we didn't have added to ours. And so again, if you were thinking of the radar route, then that's how it mounts, sits there really nicely together with something also that was in addition to our boat, which John has fitted, which is your electric air horns there. These rails, sort of sup rails in effect, they are really sturdy. We used to stow our dinghy on top of them, but of course you could put paddleboard, wakeboards, you name it. Really sturdy, very easy to strap down to, ratchet strap, whatever. So I guess the only challenge is getting stuff up onto the roof, but obviously if it's things like dinghy, paddleboard, stuff like that, which are long but relatively light, then absolutely great for that. We in fact used to put our 3.5 metre inflatable kayak up here as well, so yeah, really useful storage space if you're going out for fun and games on the water. So with that lazarette lid open, you can see on gas struts there, it's a lockable lid incidentally, but you can see you've got a lot of space under here. You can see there's a little ladder going down there to take you down, to get you enable you to get in and out easily of the locker space. And you can see from the bits that John's got in here, we used to have our dinghy, we used to have a Torpedo electric outboard for the dinghy, fishing kit, you name it, and it's a very good space. If I just try and get under there, you'll see under there, that's obviously the Webasto central heating there, and the diesel pipe running along the side there, which goes to the 25 litre diesel tank, which is just under there, under that cover. But it goes back a little way under there, behind the ladder in effect, and then a fair way back behind some of the covers that John has stored there. And again, if you want to know a bit more of the exact measurements and the dimensions of the spaces you've got here, then check out the other film where I've got the laser measure on that, just to give you an idea of the true size of the locker and the space you have. Okay, that's the locker, and then just before we go and have a look at the interior of the boat, what I forgot to mention up on the top here, you can see there is fitted a solar panel, obviously wiring coming down here, but that is also a very good addition. And under here in with the battery cut-offs and everything, you can see there that John has had fitted a Victron energy monitor. But of course not just accessible from there, because being Victron and being a new system, then it's also got a smartphone app so that you can monitor exactly what your solar's doing on the roof. But a good little position that to add that monitor together with the other switches, obviously, that you'll remember are fairly standard here. Your battery cut-offs for the engine and house batteries, your anchor battery cut off so that you can actually isolate the anchor if you're underway, so it doesn't self-deploy in any way. A rarity, I accept, but it's like a just in case. And of course John's also had added, a bit like we did, we had a 12 volt added inside the little cupboard here. John's had it placed just there, and it was really useful then if you were blowing up inflatables or the like on the back here in the cockpit space, to have that 12 volt access, because formerly the only other 12 volt socket was up at the helm station. And because you were doing all the inflation of those bits and pieces at the back here, it's a really handy addition that to the 895. Okay, so let's have a look inside.
So John is a man after my own heart. He's so organised, and there's some great touches which I'm really excited to show you.
Yes.
One of the things I've noticed on top here is a arrival checklist.
Yeah.
For instance, brief the crew on berthing plan is one of the first things, and it goes through a sequence of a different tasks to undertake while you're on the boat and before you set off.
Yeah.
And if any of you wanted a copy of that, I'm sure John wouldn't mind.
Yes, oh absolutely,
there's
yeah,
some
really handy.
Useful tips on that. John puts his kettle in there. We used to do that as well.
Yes, absolutely. And, taps fold down here, don't they?
They do, yes. Yeah, they're completely folded down. You can see there John's added a gas and carbon monoxide alarm.
Yeah, this one, incidentally, this Nereus, it's a particular brand that isn't susceptible, as some are, to sort of damp conditions. So it's a sort of, it's the Rolls-Royce, if you like, of alarms. And if any of you are interested in that style, if you look up that type of wording there, Nereus alarms, you'll see that they're just a bit more durable and a bit more hardy, shall we say, than some of the sort of standard stuff that you might pop into your house or similar.
Another thing that John's added, which I think's been put in a really good position, because you're cooking here, so you've got your gas stove here, and then directly up here you've got your fire blanket, which is perfect place for it, I think.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's have a look in some of these drawers. So, the Ridge Monkey.
We used to
have one of those.
Yes.
John has one of those.
Fantastic.
This is really useful, isn't it? Look, you put the knives and forks down flat, so they fit really neatly into the drawer there. That's really good. We used to have these as well. These are so. If you haven't seen our other 895 films, I should say, then do have a look. These are brilliant for clipping on the side of. I'll just show you.
Yeah.
They are brilliant for clipping onto here, or onto the other bars. You can hang your wetsuits, your towels, just about anything really.
Yeah.
So yes, those are very useful.
They were indeed good for wetsuits, weren't they? Yeah.
They were. Put that back where I found it.
Absolutely.
And this cupboard here, John's made a change to as well. We used to have a sort of wooden insert in here where there were holes for bottles and things. The only problem with it was that the bottle holders were actually very small, and really all I could fit in there was some cling film or foil, which wasn't really good. So John's taken it out completely, which is great, because then it leaves you the whole space there to put whatever you like in there. So
incidentally, the part that he used is made by a company called Hettich, Hettich, who made some of the alternative system for this Jeanneau fitted drawer, but yeah, so just an alternative way to be able to use those not very useful wine holders. So
we take a look into the cupboard under the sink and cooker. John's made a plate that sits on top of the sink when it's lifted up, so you can use it as an extra work surface, which I think is a great idea. That slots in nicely there. Probably quite simple to make really. And then Yeah, his arrangement of pots and pans, fairly similar to how we used to have it. These foam containers are brilliant for slotting in your pots and your plates.
Yes, they were, weren't they? Yes, they've all got their own little things, own little foamy things, so they don't rattle around when you're underway. And yes, also John's also added this sort of double-decker little rack unit, which again is quite a handy addition like that. And while we're in here, you can see right at the back there, you've got the solar monitor there at the back there to the right of the gas system. So that's the other part of the solar system. It's a 170 watt solar panel incidentally on the roof, and in a day like today it's flying with solar. Fantastic, great addition that.
And as a standard fit in the 8i5 you have the Dometic fridge, and quite rightly John's got a bottle of wine in there.
Oh, definitely.
And some bits and pieces.
Has to be.
Very essential.
Yeah, why wouldn't you be sat out the back watching the world go by?
Absolutely.
With a little glass of one of your favourites.
And under the footrest here,
yeah,
can you see it with the camera? Push that underneath there and you can see it.
Oh yeah,
Is the
fire extinguisher?
Is the fire extinguisher, and that's exactly where we used to have ours. So
yes,
it's a really good place for it.
And you can see as well, both this side and here, that John has also done flexi-teak on some of the inside surfaces of the boat. Now you can see as well that slight difference with the flexi-teak on the outside there, which has got the dark grout in effect, and then this has got the lighter colour. So I really like that, the use of it in here, but also with that lighter grout, it looks really effective. So he's added it to the footrest here, obviously to the step as you go out through the starboard sliding door there, and then obviously the seat here that you'll remember just lifts forward. You can see there, so as that seat lifts forward, and then you can see clearly then that area for your feet as you're sat here now facing forward. Really lovely spot.
And hidden behind these very comfy seats and curtain is the Webasto heating control.
Yeah, little electronic display that, and got loads of options in there, loads of menus. You can set them onto timer while you're away from the boat. You can set them onto blow only with no heat, so lots of controllability in that. Not, I would agree, the absolute best place for a set of controls there. And the little black button above it is actually the sort of heat sensor as well, which dictates whether the heating will cut in or not. So it's not my absolute favourite place for it, down by the seat there, but nonetheless that's your Webasto central heating controls.
And up here, which is a great location, is the Garmin 215 VHF radio, and John's put some very helpful stickers next to it reminding us of the different channels that exist where we're using the radio. He's put his own call sign up there, so people that don't come and use his boat very often are immediately reminded of his call sign, and some other information John's put up here as well.
Yes, and some other information there, sort of whiteboard type surface to add your tide times and dates as reminders. A lot of the estuaries here in and around the sort of south coast here, but indeed all over the UK and probably where you're watching this from, all have their own peculiarities in tide and times, where perhaps some can be accessible or other parts are more difficult. So yeah, like that little touch. And of course there's another testament and a shout out to John's background in some very large shipping experience that he has.
Now this is a fantastic addition that
Yeah,
John's created on the boat. I remember on our boat I was always looking for a clock.
Yes.
And ended up, using my phone to find out what the time was. But this is fantastic. So you've got the clock in the middle, which is lovely. Yeah. I love the styling of these.
Yeah,
these are lovely, and they fit perfectly onto this plate here. You have a barometer here as well, and then a comfort dial, which tells you the temperature and humidity levels.
Yeah. Nice that.
Yeah, it looks really lovely.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, like that. And unsurprisingly, right over the other side, yet another sort of whiteboard surface to add any weather information from the shipping forecast, perhaps before you're heading on out for a leisurely day on the water. And at the helm station, one or two slight changes to our original 895. John has obviously got the radar on the roof, so that's obviously accessible by working with some of your charts there. We can go to a sort of radar chart there, and you can see that that's now starting to pick up what's around us. You can see as well that we can get different types of radar displays on there. And of course you can get the split screen as well with your standard sort of chart navigation, but then overlaid or side by side to your radar screen. So lots of increased functionality of your display here with the addition of that radar on the roof that we saw. And then if we come down to the controls down here, you can see obviously the zip wakes there are fitted to the boat. These will be the 450S's. There's a film on the channel about those in use and a bit more detail about them if you wanted to know about them. Got your power switch down there. That obviously now powers up. You can just hear the engines kicking in there, all them electronically getting ready for start. You've got to your port and starboard startups there. So if we just then touch the port, touch the starboard, and you can just hear them firing up there at the back there. What that's also allowed us to see as well, of course, is now your Yamaha controls have come on. This CL version, as opposed to the 6YC that we had, allows you to sort of swipe across the information screens and find the detail a lot more easily than the 6YC that we had on our 2021 boat. So this is the 2022 one, and therefore a slightly upgraded electronics package. A lot easier to work with that. It's obviously very similar to your smartphones or your iPads, so conducive to that sort of interactivity. John's added a little rock, as in ROK, holder for the phone. Obviously you can see it's also a proximity charger as well, so that's handy. And together with, you've got your standard USB charging points there. You've got your USB input for direct connection to the Fusion radio here. You'll see that John's Fusion radio is the slightly upgraded, gives a bit better sound output, bit more functionality, so that's also an upgrade option that you could consider. That's the 12-volt socket I was talking about when we were at the back there, seeing the additional one that John's had added for use when out the back in the back cockpit area for the inflatables. Side power bow thruster here. You can see on some of the newer 23 boats they're putting Sleipner on them, which is either German or Danish make, I think. But you've also got here as well, that's obviously the controls for the spotlight. So you've got a simple on off, and then you've got a directional where you can front, left, right, up and down for the spotlight, which, as you remember, is mounted on the radar post at the back. Then the fly-by-wire throttles, got one or two bits of functionality that we didn't have on ours. You've got the single lever ability, where if you press that, you've then in effect you take out. So I'm now moving this single lever and not getting any response, because all of the work now is done on this one. So if, for example, you were out of your marina and cruising a relatively straight line, you can knock this one off and just operate both engines from this. Obviously when you're in and around your berth, you might want it still on dual levers, because as you'll know, with the engines both in the straightforward position, with interacting between these two, you can get some very good manoeuvrability from the 895. The switching systems, not a great deal of difference from the switching systems we had on our slightly year older boat. Got your windscreen wipers and washer, got your navigation lights, your two bilges, water pump. These are some of your electronics like your radio and other bits and bobs. There's the horn, which was an addition that we didn't have. The anchor, controllable from here at the helm station, albeit we would probably prefer to control it from the front. And some of the lighting, which is some of those, in fact you can just see one just there, the little recessed deck lighting that's all around the boat, which is really nice. Another one there, there's deck lights at the back there as you work your way back, so it's a really nice, and they're blue LEDs, so a really nice lighting effect at night. So let's just knock those off now and switch the ignition off. there we go. So that's the sort of uprated displays. That's a year on, and there's quite a few changes there in effect, particularly in what's going on behind, i.e. the electronics that's making it all work. So a few good little upgrades there, which are good to see. And over this side again, another rock holder for an iPad. The Active Captain facility on Garmin, if we just hit the home key and then work our way across, what that gives you an ability to do is to not only synchronize your charts and maps on the plotter, which you can do with a phone or an iPad, but it also allows you to link, and what John's done is actually linked a live screen. So he's taken a second feed from the Garmin device there and putting it onto an iPad here, which obviously you could have either here, out the back of the boat, wherever it might be. So it's basically a live repeat duplicate display of what we're seeing on screen here, and also of course a good way of bringing updates from home. Perhaps if you've done it on a desktop at home, you can then bring it to the boat, link with the Wi-Fi in the Garmin here, and then download those updates and keep your charts up to date here. And that's in effect what the Active Captain, or one of the abilities that the Active Captain gives you. You'll also see here, of course, that's John's marine experience coming out there. Describes himself as somebody who would definitely like to still work with charts, despite of course us in the land of GPS. When John was on the senior crew of some very large vessels, then that was pre-GPS. So charts, learning to map your route, chart your way, was the only way to get around. Then you can see that John does like that backup, and probably, I suspect, can use those charts quicker perhaps than those two. But fair play, and that's a great idea. And incidentally, on our some of our courses that we did just prior to taking ownership of the 895, in fact the 795 first, we did some of the RYA courses which do seamanship and navigation and bits like that, where you are taught to also use charts. So they're great courses too if you want to learn how to use charts and have them as a very sensible backup if some of your electronic systems fail. Okay, so as we drop down the steps here, got the master cabin here. You can see John uses got some of his Torpedo equipment there. There's the electric outboard that goes with the 3D dinghy that he uses. That was a very similar setup to that we had in our 895. On the channel as well, there's some filming and a review of the Torpedo electric engine, or electric motor I should say, which is an absolutely fantastic bit of kit. So if you've got any thoughts about getting a solution for your tender, for your dinghy, then Torpedo was a really nice addition. We like that. You can see in the master cabin here, you've got some really nice LED recess lighting at the top here and under the side of the curtains there. The curtains obviously hide the that really nice long window there, with a sort of privacy glass, which give, when the curtains are back, a lovely light in the cabin here. Combined, of course, you've got this blind here, which if you can just see under there, that's your opening window there that goes up onto the foredeck there, where that sun pad was. So with the curtains back, with your blinds open here, it's a lovely light space this, and a really nice master cabin. Cello TV added there. That's another nice addition. I like that. That wall was always shouting to me to put a telly there, but we never got round to it. So that's a really nice addition. And of course you could link to an iPad or whatever, so you could screen share on that, and it has that facility as well if you're out on the water and haven't got 240 volt. Cello of course is a 12 volt TV as well, so so it gives you some really good options there, particularly if you have the solar panel fitted as John does. You're not going to start draining your battery. There is then a little wardrobe area for some hanging there, limited in size and space, but nonetheless you can get one or two bits hidden away in there. Those are the European plugs that have been swapped over, as we did with ours, to the standard 3-pin UK, so that's something you can ask your dealer about. And obviously those storage units around the top there were very handy. You'll remember as well that there is space under there. You can see a good old supply of charts there and bits and bobs, but that was also a very good storage space under there, accessible either from the door there or by this bed, lifting this whole section of bed up, which is on gas struts. So that was a nice feature as well, and a really good storage space. And then your secondary cabin here, that has its own little cupboard space there, which was a good size cupboard. Has a little space on the side there for your bits and pieces. John has added some more USB ports here, which is a good addition because it obviously allows you to charge, or guests that might be using this cabin to charge electronic devices. And you can see there, with limited headroom but nonetheless a really good width and a good size double berth this is. It's obviously, as I say, got that limited headroom, but obviously you'd be up this end from a head point of view. And in fact you can, with that bolster at the back there, you can actually sit up in bed. So it is a usable space. Storage at the back there, you can just see those recesses at the back there, that's storage. And of course behind the panelling at the back there, that's where you've got your hot water tank, a lot of the access to the black water system and drop out. You've got lots more electronics, water pumps, things like that. Again, if you want to see behind those panels, go over to the other 895 walkthrough film on the channel, where you can see into all those extra little nooks and crannies. Last but by no means least, and there it is again, look at that, that's that more flexi teak there, again with that white grout instead of the dark grout, but another really effective, I like the look of that, really nice addition to the head space. And you'll see as well that John has also had added, that is a fresh water gauge. So you'll know that almost underneath where I'm knelt now, in fact it's under the bed in here, is your freshwater tank, and therefore really the only way you get to know it's empty is where it starts to bubble and groan, and it's coming to the end. So this, I've seen a lot of discussion about whether they should try and have a gauge on these or not. John's actually gone for that, had a gauge fitted, and the feedback on that is it works really well, and I have to say that would have been a very useful addition to the 895. You've got a bit more storage space in the cupboarding in there, storage space, toilet roll holder and bits like that supplied by Jeanneau. This is just access into some of the one or two bits you can store in there, but it's also got some of your hot and cold water piping in there and other bits and pieces. And of course you'll remember as well that that this piece here, if you just open these up, that obviously gives you additional access to the Helm station electronics, and what a pile that is. Look at that lot. There we go, those clips over again, and that holds it all in place. So yeah, that's your access to all the electronic gadgetry that's up on the Helm station there. There's a mirror built in here, and a towel rail as well that they provide. Behind the curtain there, again more light, more windows, opening section as well to the window here. So again, with all that sort of privacy glass that looks from the outside almost as if it's dark glass, when you're on the inside, it's they're really nice windows, plexiglass windows, and give the boat plenty of light on the interior here. And of course with that closed, you'll see here there's a little fitting there. That obviously you'll remember is, this actually pulls out, it comes all the way up, it slots in up there, and that then becomes your shower. You can see the door down the bottom here has got gaskets on, and the whole door itself has got gaskets around the side, so it almost like it's acting in effect like a shower door. And on the side there, just here, you've got your switch for your shower pump, which is under the floor here, so as the water disappears out, under there is a pump which then picks up the job of pushing the water out of the side of the boat. Nice little basin set up there, again as I say, hot and cold water, and that's done by that 25 litre hot water tank, which is sort of under there, accessed at the back of the mid boat berth, and heats on shore power only, unless obviously you've had fitted a generator. And you can see, apart from the ever important toolkit, John's got down there a fire angel, fire alarm sensor, and also a secondary device here, which is a fire stick, and that's also another really good a good bit of kit for perhaps a small boat like this. So if you're interested in that, then definitely have a look online for that and at what it does and how it does it. But a useful thing to have, and indeed a great place to have it, just very accessible to the Helm station there if required. Okay, so that's all the cabin spaces and the head space down here. You can see incidentally that there's also even storage space under the steps there, and under this carpet here, I won't get it up now, but under there you've obviously got washer bottle and things like that, and your bilge, mid-boat bilge. If you wanted, again, as I say, if you wanted to see all those nooks and crannies more so than today, then hop over to that other film of our 895 walkthrough, and you'll see a bit more of that detail. But and you can see here as well, John opted for those carpets, which is also a really nice finish, because under there you'll remember that going along underneath there you've got all the LED lighting, which is a really nice lighting effect then in the evenings, and then with the extra comfort of the carpets there, it's a really nice finish. But what an amazing boat though. Some absolutely fantastic additions and so many little differences to our 895. It's hard to imagine it's the same boat, but the same it is, all with those little tweaks, little additions, all can be specified. It was all done by BHG Marine this at Lymington, who John went to with his requirements and personal specification for the boat. So as I've said before, you know, work with your dealer. You can, anything is achievable. You've seen all these fantastic extras that John's had fitted here, and what's possible with the 895 Offshore. Fab indeed, and I bet there's some memories for you, isn't it?
Oh, brings back some fantastic memories.
Yeah.
Been on John's boat. Yeah, it is just a magnificent boat. We are biased because we used to own one, but yes, they are fantastic boats. Yeah, they really are.
They are. Love this though. Do you like that?
Yeah, I love the design on that.
Yeah,
really
the Jeanneau Star. I expect it's got a technical name, but it's lovely, isn't it? Yeah, it was an absolutely fabulous boat, wasn't it? And this is a very good example of it, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah, lovely indeed. Well, a massive thank you, of course, to John.
Yes.
A massive thank you to John, and oh look, welcome on board as well. A massive thank you to John for allowing us to have a look through his 2022 895 Offshore. And to some of the additions and the extras that he's added to this really stunning boat. Absolutely love it. And on a day like today, a little bit of clouds, but mid-20s at a marina like this, lovely spot here. It couldn't really get much better, could it, folks? It couldn't get much better. So as always, it's been fab.
It has, absolutely, yeah.
Fab having you along for a look round another 895. So keep an eye on the channel. This of course was a BHG supplied vessel as well. We've got the 1095 as well from BHG and the 795 from BHG going up on the channel, which may hopefully be up there already by the time you're viewing this, but if not, keep an eye out for those films because they're coming very soon.
They are, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Been great having you along. See you very soon on the next time. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.